Apriorian a charity for the spiritually mature Christian. One thing is for certain, children cannot solve the problems they create and the spiritually immature cannot eliminate immaturity. But the spiritual immature cannot overcome the idea that the solution to every problem is more care. Parasites always think that the solution to every problem is more benefits. Like children, anything they see that they need, they think belongs to them or they have a right to. The spiritually immature lack a sense of ownership. At their level, all that matters is need. The baby cries because it expects its needs to be met without any awareness of what it might take to alleviate its desires. This only works if there is a sizable number of persons producing a surplus of goods. But what to do if more and more people decide to remain childlike and dependent? What the world needs is a process of getting people out of a dependency situation. We need a charity that is more than a way to enable greater dependency. But it cannot be operated by the spiritually immature. A nursery is not a charity. There is nothing charitable about stunting the development of kids. A charity is supposed to assist those in need. We might ask, in need of what? What does a needy person need? Does the hungry just want a meal or the homeless just want a bed? In fact, does giving the hungry a meal really assist those in need or does it just perpetuate the problem? A meal does not solve the problem of helplessness. It does not solve the problem of dependency. The hungry do not want a meal, they want a way to provide themselves with the necessities of life. The problem with modern charities, they do not address the real problem, which is spiritual immaturity. The child cannot and will not look after themselves. Keeping adults in a state of spiritual immaturity cannot fix the problem created by their spiritual immaturity. The spiritual mature do not take handouts. The very fact that one accepts a state of dependency means that one is a spiritual child. These states of dependency rarely if ever come out of the blue. They suggest a lack of preparation. That being said, this world system is focused on making us dependents or keeping us spiritually immature, because so long as we remain spiritually immature, we will not embrace the Christian message. Once we understand the nature of spiritual immaturity and those who enable it, the world is very evil and the key to understanding evil is the key to understanding spiritual immaturity and what perpetuates it. An even more important point to understand is that the spiritually mature are enemies of the state. It and we are incompatible. The spiritually mature do not need the state and the state cannot do anything for the spiritual mature. However, the state needs the resources of the spiritually mature in order to care for the immature. There is a love/hate relationship. The state needs the spiritually mature but the spiritually mature do not need the state. The state on the other hand wants the spiritually mature to become dependent, but if we do, the state has no means of substance. The spiritually mature are in a constant battle with the state, both to keep as much of what they have as they can, but also to stop from being turned into wards of the state. This begs the question, if we war against the state, what is the measure of our success? This question only has merit, if we do not know what a spiritually mature person looks like. This is a trick question because the spiritually mature are not individuals, they are part of the church. The immature are spiritual children, they are linked to whatever parental figure nurtures them, as such the spiritual mature will form steep gradients of power, or administrative hierarchies, where the power is gradually concentrated at the peak of this pyramid. The church is not part of this hierarchy, for two reasons: we are not rooted in nature and we are all equal before God. If we were rooted in nature, we would be warring for more power like kids fighting over the last candy. If we did not have the perfection of God to guide us forward, we would be in chaos, as is the world. Ephesians 6:12 For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. But if we do not fight flesh and blood, but principalities and powers, is it really other human beings or their organizations that is at the center of our struggle, or nature? The evils of the fallen world come out of the very nature they inhabit. Even men are not embedded in a good world, but an evil world gives forth evil men. Adam and Eve lost their citizenship in Eden and was placed in a reality of their own making. The problems that befell them issued forth out of the reality they created. Reality is in our minds, there is no other place for it. No matter how much it looks as if reality is out there and substantial. All we really know about is what is in our minds. But where are our minds? In terms of a physical reality, the question is a paradox, even an oxymoron. The entire paradigm of reality is impossible to make sense of, Because physical reality cannot exist. The most staunch and deliberate materialist cannot fabricate a possible material reality. Whatever he wants to fabricate, it has to be held together with metaphysical factors. Indeed, one must eliminate humanity to make a physical reality feasible. There cannot be information in a physical reality. To have information, it is not enough to have a code and a way to decipher the code, there must be a superintelligence to fabricate the code. It is one thing to have the intelligence to create and decode information. It is another thing altogether to create the possibility of information and the means to protect the integrity of the language and its grammar. If reality was physical, we could not talk intelligibly and we would not exist as a self-aware, sentient species. It does not help to claim the mind is just the activity of the brain. The activity of an engine or computer does not create self-awareness or language. How does one propagate a set of symbols and language without a metagrammar? How does one grunt and huff get to mean one thing that a population that has no language understands? There has to be some kind of supergrammar or meta-language that makes one option seem the right one or closer to being the right one than others. Of course, this makes no sense in a physical reality. But what does make sense? There literally is no sense in physical reality. All we have is force and the power to impose your ways on the world. But the world is a large place and so no one can control or overpower the world. There is no language or meaning in matter. Meaning cannot be generated by matter or imposed on matter. Meaning is a purely analytical event. If no ultimate truth, there is no meaning. Language must have meaning and meaning must point to an ultimate truth. Charity is not about power, it is about meaning. Charity is a cultural element. A charitable culture or people is ascetic. There is a direction and meaning to charity that cannot be found in the materialistic world. In the physical world, life is all about the exercise of power. But we are not physical, even if we live in an ostensibly natural environment or system. And so, our spiritual nature from time to time is repelled by the harshness of it all and so we do what is called charity. Basically, this means alleviating some of the hardships that have been created through the lusts of the flesh and the pride of life. But why create these problems just to alleviate them to some degree? A charity is either for alleviating the evil created by the state or for directing us towards asceticism. Only if we are ascetics can we truly be charitable. Only if we are truly charitable are we a church. Those are the truths we have to work with. But it is not enough to simply declare that by our own standards and values we are an ascetic church. There needs a true line of division between the church and the world. That division is the same as the division between the free market and the state. The free market is the means by which we achieve asceticism in the church. If we have a free market, we do not have the state. If we eliminate the state, then we live ascetic lives. But so long as we have the state and its socialism, a proper charity or free market is not possible.